A group of badass bunnies.
Chatting it up, y'all.
So be prepared for explicit language
and triggering topics.
Talk bunny to me.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Bunny Pin.
Hello, bunnies.
We have a feline feature today with Marissa.
Hi.
Welcome, Marissa. We'll give her a chance to introduce herself. I'm Steph, as always.
I'm Corey.
And welcome back to where we celebrate women.
Yes.
All right. Marissa is a licensed professional counselor and also a nurse, which is how we first met her.
Yes.
And known her as long as we've known each other, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So basically 5 years. And with that being said, me and Corey have nothing but respect for this woman.
Yes.
For lots of reasons. Aww. And we have no doubts that will come across in this podcast. And you guys will feel the same if you don't already know her. Some of you guys listening probably do know her. And so we're beyond excited to have her in our studio today.
Yes. Definitely.
I'm beyond excited to be here. I'm so happy for you guys. Like the gratefulness, the pride. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And then, so today we're probably going to get on lots of things. So amongst all of the topics we will be discussing, we kind of do hope to get some of how to prioritize ourselves as women, relationships and boundaries. And that's including not just romantic relationships, but also family relationships and friendships. And then how to recover and heal from past relationships. Again, that can be familial or romantic or friendly.
Or doozy. Or careers.
Oh.
Yeah. Boss relationships.
True, that's a good one. I think we all have a little bit of that. And then also women's rights and mental health, especially in today's current climate.
Yes.
All right. Anything you need to add, Corey? Are you ready to go?
No, in fact, I thought about it afterwards. I don't even have my iPad up.
I know, that's why I just kept going.
Good, I love it. You're
okay.
I was up till 4 a.m.
Yes.
Just
so
a
thank you for being
So I'm
here.
going to be a little bit I don't even know what the word to use at this very moment, but I'm going to be a little lacking.
Yeah, Corey and I work night shifts, so sometimes our bodies don't know when to sleep. It's fun.
It never complies with me.
Keeps us on our toes. All right. So, Marissa, tell us a little bit about who you are and your professional background.
Well, I'm originally from the East Coast, which I think we all are.
Yes.
East Coast?
East Coast comes to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been out here in Colorado for 8 years. I met my spouse out here snowboarding. So
we love Lewis. If you're listening, Lewis.
Hi, Lewis.
Hi, honey. So I love being outside. I love being in nature. It's just kind of always been a big part of who I am. And then it's weird. I've been a nurse for almost 13 years, which kind of makes me want to barf.
Yeah, I'm on the same timeline. We're the same age. And yes, it is kind of crazy to think about. So when I say it, I just keep saying, lucky number 13 to make me feel better about it.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, I was 23 when I started. I was literally a baby. And I've always been in the operating room. And I do love the operating room. I love the human body. I love literally digging into it. Sorry, full disclosure. I love the body. But, you know, I've been a nurse for 13 years. There's a lot that's come along with that. And at some point, I decided to go back to school and get a master's degree in mental health counseling. And so I have been doing that for a little, well, I guess... Yeah, it's 2 years. Holy crap. At the end of this month, that just hit me. I graduated 2 years ago, and the universe brought me Blend Health, which is actually a company based in Michigan. It's a holistic mental health and wellness company. The CEO and founder slid into my DMs on Instagram, and we connected that way. And so it's been a beautiful fit. It just all came together for me. And so again, gratefulness comes to mind as far as my career and my journey and my work now.
Yes, I love that for you.
Yeah, it's nice that the hard work paid off while you were in school and training, and you're like, no, this really is bringing me the benefit that I didn't have in my career before, maybe, or like a new purpose
yeah.
or joy or satisfaction.
Yeah, I think, the way it came together so organically was just confirmation that I was doing the right thing.
Right, just lines up.
I'm that kind of girl who's always felt like she had to fight for everything. I think both of you could relate to that.
Yes.
And so when this happened, I was like, this felt like there was an ease to it.
Right.
This
So
is too easy. What does that mean?
Right.
like, I get
Waiting
to
for the
trust
bottom drop.
something.
Yes. Right.
I don't have to
Trust.
fight tooth and nail. And so that was just confirmation that I'm doing the right thing. And I feel like, in my 30s, I really reached a place in life where, like, I'm in the right place. I'm doing the right thing. It feels good. And yeah, my 20s were spent, like, duking it out for that. And I've arrived with the idea of always growing.
Yeah.
And it's been an inspiration for sure. I don't know about you, but I can say so for myself, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely find you inspiring.
Yes.
Well, you
Thank you,
guys have
Nova.
been huge supports through that. You were with me through my grad school journey at work and kind of the hellish experience we shared at work, and then personal experiences we've all connected on all.
Yes.
And so it's I think it's kind of the theme of y'all's podcast is women coming together and being there for each other and celebrating our strengths and supporting each other's in the areas that we do need to keep evolving. And so I'm blessed to be here with you guys.
So you kind of wanted a little bit of a career change, but what
Yeah.
inspired you to really get into mental health side of medicine?
Oh, the mental illness in the hospital.
Wait, are we talking coworkers or patients?
Both.
70-30?
70-30, and we're talking staff
So-
70.
Yes. Yeah.
Just to make it clear.
Well, kind of. I mean, that was a part of it, but it wasn't the original thing. My dad is actually a licensed professional counselor. My mom's a nurse. So I've always had an interest in psychology. I went the nursing route first, but I went through some personal stuff in my 20s that led me to this place. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And so I went to counseling during that time. It literally saved my life. And at some point, I was like, I want to go back to school. And I was in a supportive, healthy romantic relationship. Weird. And I was like, I'm not sure what this is. But, my husband, again, shout out to Lewis, was like, I'll support you in whatever you want to do. And so I went back. We both sacrificed a lot to make that happen. But it truly, and this is an aspect of healing I really encourage a lot of my clients to dive into, is this making meaning out of our struggle. And that was something, again, Corey and I connected on very deeply as women who have had unhealthy relationships. And so that is truly the reason why I'm here, is that I survived that situation. And I was like, I got to help other people. This happens to so many people. And then it's just translated to all these different areas. So it's been a really interesting journey.
I'm sure it'll continue too to be like, a whole unexpected journey as you continue in your career further and deeper, and like what branches may come of it and opportunities arise and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
They're just at the big tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
I've been surprised by like, oh my gosh, I really love working with this type of client, or I had no idea like this would be so special to me. And so it went from being like domestic violence advocacy to so much more. And so that's been pretty cool to just like unfold as it comes.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Once you
to
start
hear.
following your purpose, things just line up and continue pushing you along.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's
Just
beautiful.
continue to fall in line. So,
Lots of traumas. So whether that's childhood trauma, intimate partner violence, sexual assault, all that. So that is the heavy part of my work. I also have stuff on the lighter end. I take a relational approach to my counseling. And so do a lot of work in interpersonal relationships, which I love. And so boundaries, communication, all that fun stuff. I also work with a lot of healthcare professionals. That was one of the areas I was like, oh, I didn't know I'd like this so much. And so doctors, nurses, technicians, pharmacists, that's been really cool. And then I work with a lot of individuals who struggle with chronic illness of some kind. And, I'm a big believer in biology and psychology are interrelated.
Yes.
This is something that the profession hasn't acknowledged till recently. And so I'm so thankful to be at a company that acknowledges it and looks at the big picture. And so I also look at that big picture because they impact each other in so many ways.
And when they reached out to you, Blend Health, they were, I think, interested because you did have a nursing background. Is that correct?
Yeah. Brooke literally sent me a message that was like, oh, you're a therapist and a nurse? That's cool. And I was like, thanks. And then like a month later, she's like, do you want to interview? And I was like, sure. And it just all came together. There are several of us who are former athletes. So I do work with athletes, which is a really fun aspect for me. And so we just connected on that. And we really try and help people from that holistic, integrative perspective. Like, let me get you into this doctor. There sounds like there's something going on here, and it's really been a struggle for you, and that's really impacting you. Let me help you with that. Let me go to the doctor's appointment with you. Let me talk to that doctor who's being a jerk to you, because I can handle that. That's an underlying specialty I didn't expect to come up as room dynamics with physicians on behalf
But
of
you're
my
used
clients.
to it from the operating room.
Oh yeah, I'm like, oh, let's go.
This is second nature to me.
Right. I am happy to intervene.
So yeah, personality disorders is another one. That's kind of a blanket statement. That's a whole big chapter in the diagnostic manual. But individuals really struggling, and often these come up, personality disorders really affect our relationships. So that ties closely to the relational perspective I take. So yeah.
Love it.
This is too just a side question,
Yeah.
And of course we can't give away any details, but you said you work with a lot of healthcare providers, and then you've talked about trauma. Do you work with people who have work-related trauma?
Yeah. It was interesting because I got connected to a client, and it was through the process of selling our house last summer, and just like totally unexpected connection. And they're new in the medical field and coming into the medical field, brand new, out of school. Some of the biggest staffing shortages we've ever had in healthcare. And just what they were going through was so intense. And so for me to be able to come in and us just talk to each other as nurses, and me as an, oh my God, older nurse, that just came out of my mouth. And to be able to help guide her in that and advocate for herself in that and say, no, I'm not going to take on that role right now because I haven't even been in a staff nurse role for a year yet. And so how to support ourselves in our work environments and basically not take any of the shit they try and put on you.
Corey and I were just talking yesterday.
Medicine is like a special beast.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is a special beast.
We were talking yesterday how where she's working was asking her to do a role that she's never
Transport.
trained on.
Yeah, and
and
I'm like, listen, that's all perfectly fine, but I don't even fully work for your hospital. I don't know where the floors are. I said, I'm not transporting anybody on a monitor.
Oh.
It's not happening. And then they were like, oh, well, if they're on oxygen, you can put them on oxygen on the transport. And I'm like, y'all are tripping. And they pretty much were like, well, we're going to have you do it until a scenario happens where, something happens and it doesn't work out and we have to make changes. I'm like, so you're pretty much going to let me do this until shit hits the fan?
Yeah.
Cool. Glad we're signing up for it. Let's shake. Bye. So random.
Yeah. So, I mean, we know because we're in this room, how much it's changed, but we don't know how much that affects, you're talking about people new to healthcare. I can't imagine coming in. And then also, I mean, I would assume there's lots of trauma with any jobs. Yeah. Whether that's, your interpersonal relationships, terrible bosses, any kind of thing. So I think that's probably something that people don't talk a lot about or realize that, hey, I do have issues, or I don't want to use that word, but I do have lingering effects from something that happened to me at a place of employment.
Yes.
And we're not giving that enough airtime or light on the subject or any of that.
I mean, even in trauma facilities and stuff like that,
Oh.
when you have patients pass away on you, it's like, okay, are you good? Breathe. All right, I need you to relieve an OR3. And I'm like,
And well, I said this the other day, and not that there's anything wrong with like going out as a team and bonding over drinks or whatever after we experience a life lost, but then it's just like we just leave it there. And it's like, well, what do we do with this? And there's no supports in the hospital setting for that. So for me to be able to work with someone, whether it's in the tech field or in the medical field, I mean, just the other day, I spent an entire session with someone literally talking about this meeting they were going to have with their boss. And I'm the type of therapist who, yeah, of course, I'm thinking about the session beforehand and where to go, and I'm prepped for that. But you bring something to me that's important, we're going to talk about it, because this is about you. It's not about me and what I have planned.
right.
This is about the person coming to me for help and how I can help them. So if you say, hey, my boss said this to me and I can't shake it, let's fucking talk about it.
Yeah. And now you have to interact with them. And
Yeah.
I think too, like so many companies, all types of fields, have created environments, and we've accepted it in society, and we're still just trying to break those boundaries, but where they basically tell you you can't talk to your coworkers about anything that happens at work that is a big deal. Like, I mean, I've signed whatever.
NDAs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I went to Bravo. Marissa's a Bravo fan.
Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Cease and desist. Yeah. I've
One of our
signed-
coping skills guys.
Yeah,
Bravo.
we
Check it
talked
out.
about that in another episode. It'll be coming. But yeah, like, even just, you know, how they even, from like the, you know, easiest example is don't talk about your pay. But they, and so many things are like, well, but you can't talk about this. Like, and it could be something that really affected you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can really only talk to people at work about it because they're the only ones who are going to fully understand the story.
Yeah.
But then you're being told you can't do that or you could lose your job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that kind of culture in any work environment hopefully is one of the other things starting to change in the current climate of our country. And I hope to see that, but that can be
Yeah.
traumatizing and people don't acknowledge that.
Well, it programs you to internalize things, right?
Right.
And so I just experienced this thing, or I just think I got, you know, turned down for a raise when I've been working here for how long that I know other people are getting. So why am I, you know, what's the disparity here? Because this doesn't make sense. Or something majorly traumatic just happened that we all shared in collectively. And it teaches us to internalize that and not talk about it. And it's a hush-hush bullshit atmosphere that puts not just our patients, but us at risk. And this is something most people go into because you have some desire to help. You have some
Right.
desire to caregive, no matter what area of medicine that's in. Most of us go into it because we have a heart for it in some way, shape, or form. And so what that does is rob people of their passion for it. That's why we see burnout. 70s, like you and I used to see stuff. My first hospital, there were nurses that had been there for 30 years.
Right.
And I
Rocking at 70 years old,
I
running
think
around
I
like,
was-
I won't stop.
I was one of two nurses in my OR under 30. And I mean, that was
the culture.
yeah. And it wasn't
Uh-huh.
small. I mean, we had like 15 ORs. No, I
Mhm.
think we had 20. I lied. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a complete shift from what it used to be, for sure.
I could go on that soapbox forever.
Maybe it'll come back around. Bring it around the front. What advice do you give listeners, Marissa, who are curious to try counseling for the first time?
So, the biggest, I'm going to throw out a stat. The biggest statistic for people benefiting from counseling. So, you basically come and get what you ask for, right? Whatever outcome, whatever goals those are, is the relationship between the therapist and the client. It's not what theory they use. It's not what type of education they had. It's none of that. it is how much do they trust you and vice versa. How honest can they be? What's that rapport like?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's like a chemistry and rapport and respect kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah, especially because a lot of people who are coming, you know, they struggle with vulnerability or
Yeah.
they've got trauma responses that they don't truly understand.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got somebody who's like hitting you and they seem like they want a paycheck or you know what I mean, you're just not connecting.
Yeah.
It's very easy for you to stonewall and be like, well, now it's almost like I can't speak if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Like we just are never going to get anywhere and I'm going to pay you just to sit in front of me and be like, how's your week been? Good, yours.
It's about
And
the
it's-
connection.
Yeah, it's really important.
So, like, people just be, or like your advice would be just because you maybe didn't click or have a good
Yeah.
first few
Mhm.
experiences with someone or even a couple people to like keep trying.
Yes, and don't
Keep
be scared
looking.
to shop around for sure. Like some
Mhm.
people, it takes a lot, I feel like, for them to even take the step to go to get
Yep.
therapy. And then they do that first one and it's so discouraging because they're like, am I
Right.
feeling not lighter or, you know what I mean, with more things on my plate. And then it's very easy for them to give up. And
Yep.
like, it is so worth it for you to find somebody you connect with for sure.
And that it's literally scientifically based now. We have that information. And so please, if you're, searching on the internet, and by the way, a great resource is Psychology Today to look for therapists. You can customize the search. I do not work for them. I do have a profile on there. But it's a great way to find therapists who will be the best fit for you. And so see if they have a free consultation. Take advantage of that if you can. We, of course, at Blend Health do. If you're not vibing, say something. It's okay. You don't have to keep going. And you might be surprised at who you connect with. One of my therapists was like this woman. I think she was honestly in her 80s. And I needed like her grandmotherly presence at that time in my life. And talking to her was so healing for me. And then the therapist I went to out here when I was recovering from my abusive relationship, he was a gay Jewish man in his 50s, but he was a feminist counselor. And he also specialized in sex therapy. And he just gave me he knew what I needed to heal. And he just gave that to me. And so my connection with this person who I didn't have a lot in common with, I felt so safe. And I just was able to receive everything that he said. So base it off of how you vibe with them. Seriously. That's the best indicator of outcomes for you.
And don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've also worked with, there was a time where money was tight and I couldn't really afford, certain therapies. And there was a website called Open Path. I don't know if you've ever heard about that.
No.
But you pay like one time, I think it's like $40 or $50. I don't actually remember. But you pay a one-time fee and then you get to pay a huge discounted rate. I think like at one point
that's
I was
great.
paying like maybe $60 a session, which, you at certain times you can scrounge up $60 to be able to do it. And I had the same thing. I had a much older woman. Her name was Mary, and she was a doll.
Yeah.
And she was the same thing. It was like that grandmotherly, like I just needed a warm presence, and that took me through that portion of it. And I was like, this is lovely. But I found her through Open Path, which is cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
There are a lot of insurance does cover some services for therapy now. So check into your insurance. Even if the therapist is out of network, you might be able to get reimbursed. We have a scholarship program for certain individuals and you have to apply for it. But there are ways to get the help that you need in the whatever your financial situation is. A lot of therapists do sliding scale. They say, hey, this is what I charge, but what can you afford? And so don't also advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to ask those questions and say, hey, here's my budget every month. And if that therapist can't work with you on that, then maybe they can help you find someone who will.
And then these days too, there's so many more like telehealth options.
Yep.
Which also help expand, which can be overwhelming, but can also help people find someone better for them because you're not having to go in person every single time. Or if you live somewhere really rural or remote,
Yep.
and then that just makes it so much more accessible for everyone. And I think that's been a great thing.
Me too. Some of my clients have their dogs cuddled up to them and their pets, their cats. And I mean, Has your dog laying on your chest on your favorite spot on the sofa and doing therapy. So many people are like, I never want to do it any other way. Or we get creative at Blend. We might take you to the park. We might go on a hike. You might go snowboarding with me. You never know. And so, also try and find a therapist who's a good match for you in that sense too.
Great advice.
Blend is lovely.
We were talking about cats on the chest yesterday.
Yes.
It's all coming back around today.
Well, you have 2 cat ladies in the house today.
Those two.
Had to clarify.
All right. What are reasonable expectations for people new to counseling?
So I would say don't expect something to happen overnight. Whatever you've gone through, whatever you're going to therapy for, this has probably been a pattern or instilled in your life since maybe before you even have the ability to form memory. It takes time. There's no magic wand. Trust the process. This is a big catchphrase now, but healing is not linear in any way, shape, or form.
And you have to have grace for yourself.
Yeah.
Grace for
And
yourself
others.
is a really nice way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, society for so long has been such a, we want fast results, fast answers for everything. And so then that translates into, and creeps into our minds and our psyche. And so I think that can be a cause people get discouraged.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to hear that reminder that, it will take time. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong,
Yeah.
Well, it took years to build.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it's going to take years to
Someone once told me,
reconstruct.
this is different but similar. Someone once told me, it will take you twice as long to get over every relationship as the relationship was. Fully over that person. Yes, there will be, progress. But, yeah, we can't expect things to heal faster than they were. Or those,
Well, and something, kind of a theoretical tenet of my approach is that, especially from the relational perspective, we have blueprints. Those blueprints start in utero. Okay? They start in utero. And so I don't say that to be discouraging, but by the time you come to me, we're looking at blueprints that are decades old that need to be edited. And we want to make changes. We want to be better. That takes time. It takes patience. It takes self-compassion. And when you're new to therapy, or maybe you're meeting with a new therapist for the first time or addressing an issue you haven't before, expect to be emotionally dysregulated. And that means you're going to have some mood shifts and changes. You might feel really exhausted. You might feel really energized. You might feel like you could cry at any second. You might have nightmares. This is part of the process. It's part of your literal physical body releasing much of what has happened to you. And it comes out in different ways, and it doesn't always fucking look pretty. That's okay.
Yeah.
And people always think it's just venting and, you know what I mean? Talking and getting certain things out. But therapy, especially, I feel like even in the time that I've been dabbling in therapy to now, it is so much more, and I don't know if it's Blend Health or what it is, but even the awareness of the nervous system, because that was huge for me, because I was I understand the box breathing, I understand, you know what I mean, telling myself they're just thoughts and letting them go, but there's nothing I can tell myself if I don't learn how to regulate the fact that I'm sitting with someone I'm safe with, but because of traumas I've been through in my life, I'm shaky, and then I'm sitting there and I'm going, why is my body shaky? And then you ruminate on the fact that your nervous system's just responding when really it doesn't have a reason to. It's just coming down off of being on flight for so long.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
And that's and Heather and I, my colleague at Blend, we really do a lot of work with the nervous system, because I think a lot of people at this point have heard of muscle memory. Our nervous system has memory. And so if we think about someone who was in a car accident, right? Maybe the car T-boned them from the right side, the passenger side. You are going to be jumpy on the right side even years later if something's coming at you from that side. But that happens before we're cognitively thinking about it. I'm not thinking, oh, look, this is so scary. I was in a car accident and this car is coming at me. Oh, I'm
Or you're
freaking
just
out.
instinctually doing it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's called neuroception. It's what happens in our nervous system before our brain can think about it. It's what our eyes are seeing. It's what we're experiencing from a sensory perspective. And so, especially with any kind of traumatic event, we have to teach your body how to feel safe when it is safe. And then the thoughts come after. Then the emotional regulation starts to happen, where when I experience a feeling of insecurity because I noticed my partner did this, but there's actually nothing wrong with what they did that's coming from my past, I can breathe. I can engage in some of the other techniques to calm my nervous system and say, this is safe. Baby girl, you don't need to freak the fuck out. Calm down. It's okay. And over time, that becomes less frequent and less intense. But it takes time.
And depending on what you believe, you may carry things in your body and your mind from previous lives, which can make that process even longer or harder to realize what it is that you're healing from.
Yeah, because by the time I feel like people come to therapy, it's like, this has been from in utero, right?
Yeah.
And then you don't even know that you're dealing with these struggles, or these are something that you have to rework. Then you go through your life exposing yourself to certain other traumas because of the way you actually deal with things that you didn't know about. And then by the time you're coming to therapy, you're like, oh, I want to deal with these. And it's like, oh, we have to reset.
Yeah.
Those
It's
were
so
actually
much more than just
from-
like these
yes.
specific. And then that in itself is sometimes mind blowing. I know it was for me, at least. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
this makes complete sense.
Whether it's from a spiritual perspective or, I love everything's interrelated to me, or intergenerational trauma, right? When we think about being in utero, I'm going to get nerdy for a second, the mother carrying the child, her stress hormones, what she's been through in her life. Does she have coping mechanisms? Because all those hormones, all those experiences are getting passed through the placenta. And so, yes, to everything you're saying, Steph, because this, and again, that self-compassion, that patience for ourselves, that acknowledgement that healing is going to look beautiful, it's going to look exciting, and it's going to be sometimes some of the darkest moments you've ever had. And that's just all part of the process. And hopefully that's why I'm here and other therapists are here to help you navigate that and not feel alone in it.
I was going to say, and loneliness is the biggest thing, because there becomes a shift when you start doing it for sure. Like you start being like, okay, I'm going to pick who I want to spend my energy on. I need to rework certain systems. And at least in my healing portion, there was a time where I was like, wow, a lot of the people I'm surrounded with, unfortunately, like I've realized they're trauma bonds or whatever the relationship was, and I'm like, I have to make a shift here. And then I had to do a little self-isolation to be able to learn how to do boundaries. And I remember being like, this is wildly lonely.
And I want to reframe that. I think you chose solitude.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, because I don't like to think about self-isolation anymore, because I used to do it a ton, but that's a
No,
better
you
way to do
chose.
it.
You went from self-isolating, which I believe isolation exacerbates any underlying issues we have, to chosen solitude. That's a very different experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had to rework that. I was like,
You're welcome. I threw that
Yeah.
in for
Thank
free.
that's hysterical.
And now remember,
I'll pay
to
you
tell
in snacks.
yourself. Would you like another seltzer?
Right?
That's what
Cheers
we're
to
paying in right
self-solitude.
We bargained beforehand. All we can afford to pay you right now is.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
What do most people misunderstand about counseling?
I would go back to that kind of magic wand effect. Here's the deal. Some people just need to come in once a week and talk to me. There are other people, you've got to practice your shit. Your healing is not on me. I'm here to help you navigate that. And I will support you and do everything I can as your therapist. I cannot do it for you.
Yeah, you got to put in work.
And if I do it for you, am I really helping you, or am I enabling you like everybody else in your life? And that's also like my directness. It's part of my approach to therapy. So I'm being really direct right now. I'm really direct and honest with people. And if I have that rapport with you, if I have that relationship with you, I'm going to tell you that. Say, I'm not going to answer that question that you want me to answer for you because that's me enabling you like everyone else in your life. And you came to me because you want to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's that too, setting realistic expectations, which I think
Yes.
can be applicable to lots of avenues of life, not just counseling, but like what are actual reasonable expectations
Yeah.
from this? What are we going to bring from this?
And it's also got to be frustrating because there are people who show up. Like I've been in contact with people throughout my life where they've said, oh, well, I'm going to therapy, but they show up to therapy and it's like pulling teeth. You know what I mean? Like they'll even talk about the fact that they go there and they're like, well, I don't really open up, or I lie about certain things because I don't actually want to face it. And then, so I could imagine that is even challenging for you to sit there and someone to be showing up and you being like, okay.
Yeah, on your end of it.
Yeah.
It is. I think in any setting outside of mandated counseling, right, that when someone comes across to me like that, I'm like, that's an adaptive response. Why do you do that? Like something happened in your life that you feel like even you want to get better, you're coming to me voluntarily, there's something sticky here. And so I have to really work on earning that person's trust. And I will say, if I can't get there, I think this person might be a better fit for you. Let's try this. Because there might be something that they see in me, and unintentional on my end, that reminds me of a person in their life that, and this is where I get like sentimental and emotional, like empathetic heart comes through. And I have to say, like, this is not about me. This is not about me not being a good therapist. This person needs something else. And so, yeah, I mean, I think people come with expectations also of therapy being like fluffy and like we're going to sing Kumbaya. And obviously, I'm not that person. And some people do need that. But I think therapists take all shapes and sizes and all different approaches. And, you know, I'm circling back, but make sure you feel connected to that person and safe with that person. And if you don't, it's time to go somewhere else.
What do you, this could be a totally terrible question. What's like a reasonable, like 3 sessions with one person, and if it's not working, like...
Yeah, I would... It depends on the issues, right?
I was going to say, because I've been able to tell on one sometimes.
And I know when I'm connected to a client, I'm like, this is a great fit. Or I know when they would be better with someone else at my organization, Blend Health. Some therapists, they do start with like a lot of assessments. And so it's very like direct clinical style questions. So that can give a facade of disconnection. So that therapist is doing that for a reason for you. And that's an important part of their approach. So I would say, give it some time to move past that phase. And if you're still not feeling connected, again, it's okay to look, shop around, do your research. If you're like, ooh, that person, go for it. Do a consultation, give that first session a try.
Yeah, I think sometimes too, like even if you're just looking, you know, for anything, you're looking at apartments or you're looking for a new hairstylist we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Or a new tattoo artist or something different. Like you just can sometimes feel when you're looking at that, even though it's online and you're not anywhere near the store, like, oh yeah, no, this one, I'm going to try this place.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to go through, you got to kiss a lot of frogs. You got to scroll a lot of internet pages. Even just on the internet. You
If your therapist feels like you're kissing a frog, it's time to look elsewhere.
Gross. And that's inappropriate.
Yes.
But I've also had...
Do not kiss your therapist.
No.
And your therapist should not kiss you. Disclaimer. Run.
And there was one in particular that I had stuck with for a while, and it's because the money worked, and I was in a space where I was like, I need someone to talk to, so I don't even care if this isn't working.
Yeah.
And you're just like somebody that I have a reset every week with, and I was paying for her, and I thought it was terrible, and I was like working my way out of like interacting with her any longer, and still managed to. There was one night when I was in a bathroom and I had called her and it was like off hours. We had no anything, and she happened to answer the phone and she sat there on the phone with me, and I was like, I have literally worked this entire time with you for this one very moment, and that you know what I mean. So, and we didn't click at all. Like, it was very cookie cutter. It was, and I don't really work too well with that because, you know, I'm goofy. I like the music therapy. I like certain weird things. I like sitting in the grass and stuff. So we were just not.
And that's not weird. That's your therapist paying attention to what helps you.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I think it's just more modern approach.
Off the couch, baby.
Yes. I'm like, oh, we're going to sit here. Okay.
I would just fall asleep, I think. Back there was...
On the couch?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Especially
can
like
pay
if the
attention.
sunlight's coming in and it's a little warm in there. I'm down for the count.
At least you feel cozy.
I
Right.
brought my own pillow this time. Is that okay?
And my weighted blanket. I'm ready, guys. Let's talk.
Oh, and the sound machine. Can you just not?
Can you just sit in this room with me?
Hold my hand.
Right. Maybe I need cuddle therapy.
Oh my god.
When-
I do not offer that service.
I'm
Just
just saying, I do not want that service.
No,
I
that was
will be
pure sarcasm.
sweating.
I know.
I can barely hug people I love sometimes.
Yeah, I've gone a long way with that.
Yeah. I used to be the queen of Irish goodbyes. I'm like, yep, that's a hard no.
Oh,
Don't
me too.
touch me.
Yes.
See ya.
I would
Yep.
just be like, I mean, this was college, like, out, but I'm like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and then I would just leave all the time.
Mm-hmm. I tried pulling it on Jackie one time. I sat in the bathroom and I was like, maybe they'll just leave. And she-
And that's a person she likes.
I
Sometimes
hit
you
my
just wanna
socially
go
awkward
home.
wall, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's it, I'm done. I'm sitting here until everybody's out of this restaurant, and then I'll take my ass home.
That happens to me
She
sometimes,
knocked on the
too.
door like, what are you doing? I'm like, okay, fine.
You know it's there for stuff when she goes, okay.
Dead giveaway.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, now let's transition to a
Okay.
little bit about yourself. So, what part does self-care play for you in your mental health?
The vast majority of it. I have to take care of myself in order to be there for other people. Like you guys witnessed earlier, I'm very sentimental, and I also have this very tough girl side of me. I'm a Libra, so that balancing out of like being super tough and then super empathetic, it's a huge priority. And so for me, self-care looks like Bravo. Seriously, like at the end of the day, I turn on a show in many cases and I can just decompress to that and be absorbed. And so whether that's Bravo for someone or a movie or a book or what have you, I have that outlet just to like relax and not think about everything that's gone on in the day. Because I have a tendency I'm a ruminator. And yeah, it's just that cyclical, like I could think about the same thing that happened over and over again. And so that helps me with that. Exercise is important for me. And I live up in the mountains now. This was like a slow roll into creating a lifestyle I didn't have to escape from. And so that's what self-care means for me. Is like, what am I doing daily, whether that's like a warm bath or doing yoga or going on a run or watching Bravo. It's something that allows me to wake up the next day and feel good about what I'm doing and my capacity to be there for other people. You can't pour from an empty cup, and I think that's important for all women to hear at all stages of life, whatever that looks like for you. If you don't fucking prioritize yourself, you are not living up to the person who you want to be. It's impossible. So speaking of expectations, stop making that an expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Bravo, kudos to
Yes.
that. Very well
Amen,
said.
sister.
This goes along with kind of what you were just saying, but I don't know if you have more to elaborate on.
Yeah.
Along with the importance of self-care, how do you think self-love and value play a part in women in regards to relationships?
Huge.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
You guys.
No, I think, self-love is an interesting concept. I think that, I'm glad people are talking about it now, but at the same time, I don't want to like throw it out there that we should just believe that we love every part of ourselves. I think in that there can be some toxic positivity. And I like to look at it from the perspective of not that I love every single part of myself or accept every single part of myself as perfect or I'm exactly where I should be in life. That's not true. But it's knowing, and I think this is where value and worth come in. It's knowing what I deserve, whether that's I'm giving that to myself or I'm choosing partners or people in my life that help me grow. And there's this idea called growth fostering relationships. And when we have relationships that we feel safe in, that are mutually respectful, there's reciprocity, there's a sense of zest that we get from that. I think that's something we enjoy about each other, right? We can talk about really heavy things together in our personal time and on a podcast if you need it. But we also get energy from each other. And I think when we can walk away from an interaction with someone and for the most part feel really good about it and really good about ourselves, that's a critical part in loving who we are and knowing our value is who we spend our time with, who we're connecting to, because as I'm sure everyone who's listening has experienced, there are people who are in your life who you walk away feeling depleted from. Mm-hmm. And so it's knowing what you need, it's knowing what you value, and so that looks like to me like one of my number one values is loyalty. I also have people in my life who they at least appreciate the value of loyalty and what that looks like between us. So yeah, that's my kind of like tangent about self-love.
No, I loved it. And
Me
I
too.
do think self-value is such a better term.
Yeah, I see like so much on social media and stuff now about, oh my gosh, love every aspect of yourself. It's not realistic. I look in the mirror and there are things I'm insecure about.
Flow.
And that's part of being human. We can't have happy-go-lucky feelings about ourselves all the time. But is my insecurity about myself leading the way in my decision-making? Then yeah, let's fucking take a look at that.
Bing, bing, bing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're going to have negative thoughts about
Yes.
ourselves, about situations, about other people. That's part of being human. That's how our brains work. It is, can I honor that I have this vulnerability in myself and not operate from that place of vulnerability? Say, this needs love and care. What does that look like so I'm not ending up in, for example, codependent relationships where I rely on someone else to fix that for me? That's where we get into trouble.
Why do you think women sometimes struggle with boundaries in relationships more than men?
Society, culture, religion, all of those things. I was saying earlier about prioritizing our needs and self-care, for example. It's been ingrained in us to put ourselves last. It's been ingrained in us in many ways to be submissive, to not be in touch with ourselves, to always be thinking about other people. And that's why we struggle with boundaries. That's why it's hard to say, no, this is not acceptable to me, because am I going to be labeled a bitch for that? Am I going to be labeled crazy for that? And so we hesitate to speak up about something we're not okay with.
Or selfish?
Yes. There's a whole list.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that we've all heard at some point in our lives that we were criticized for trying to actually make a relationship better, which is what boundaries are for, is to make a relationship better. And if the other person can't handle that, then that's not on you to take responsibility for. But as women, I think we're taught that we should. I should make you feel better about yourself. No, that's not why I exist.
I know I'm guilty of it.
I'm sure we all have been. I was.
Absolutely. And then it's also like, and what are you doing for my existence? Like, it's usually not a two-way street, but then that person will react in a negative manner, and then that can lead to gaslighting. That can go on and on and on.
Oh, yeah.
That can be a whole rabbit hole itself. That was cute. I kind of wanted to start singing to it.
It's back to that.
Yeah. Marissa, what advice do you have for people experimenting with setting new boundaries in already established relationships? And what about new relationships moving forward?
So in established relationships, when we set boundaries, it's most likely not going to be well received. But we don't set boundaries based on the reaction of the other person. And a lot of people, that's what they do, or that's how they approach it. And it's not to say that we can't set boundaries while being considerate and kind, but we also want to be very direct. And we also want to be very clear. And it depends on the boundary in your relationship with the person. So, for example, if I can't think of an example of a boundary I'd set with either of you, but if I had to, I would explain it to you and like where I'm coming from. But we also don't have to explain our boundaries, especially with a person you don't feel actually safe with. So maybe you are looking to set boundaries with someone in your family who that relationship has been abusive in the past, or there have been some really unhealthy patterns that now you've reached this place in your life that you're just now realizing, oh, that wasn't okay. And so that might not be a person you want to explain the boundary to, because those individuals have a tendency to pick it apart for the purpose of disarming that boundary you're setting. And so boundaries are for us. Boundaries are so I can love myself and you simultaneously. They don't come from a place of or a goal of estrangement. It is to make the relationship better. So it's saying, here are my needs. My needs matter. I need you to respect them, and putting the ball in their court to say, are you going to have any sense of reciprocity in this? Are you going to respect me? It's giving someone an opportunity to show up for you in the way that you need them to.
Which can only deepen the relationship, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the right person, that enhances the relationship. Again, it makes it better. With the wrong person, they're probably going to have a very upsetting reaction. And then it becomes about tolerating their reaction. So your distress about it, which it will be distressing, while maintaining the boundary. That's the hardest part there, because you're going to want to break that down to alleviate some of their behaviors and their impact on you. When it's actually most important to hold the boundary, gather your supports, talk to your therapist, talk to your trusted friends, your partner, increase self-care. And so you're able to survive that part of the interaction to hopefully get to a place where the boundary is then implemented and in place.
Yeah, to come out on the other side, and like you said, with a better, stronger relationship.
Yeah.
But also not losing yourself in the midst of it, which is crucial.
Right. Again, I think that goes back to women feeling like they need to give everything up, whether that's for children or whether that's for a job or a spouse, right? And so we want to maintain our sense of self. That's usually why we entered the relationship in the first place, because two people like each other and like their attributes, but then we can get lost sometimes in what's sometimes dysfunction of the relationship.
What advice do you have for people out there dating or trying to make new friends or starting new jobs for setting boundaries from the beginning so that then you don't get into that situation of later on trying to set them?
I heard a really good quote the other day that stood out to me, that unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments. And I don't know that the premeditation is always conscious, but I think sometimes we're afraid to say, like, we're on a date with someone and let's say you guys are genuinely interested in a relationship, saying, by the way, if this keeps going, I need you to know that I'm not cool with you still being on a dating app if this goes farther. some people are afraid to say that because we want to be cool. We want to be easygoing. We want to be this. And then 6 months down the road, and there's no label on the relationship. There's been no conversation about the status of the relationship. And that person is still on the dating app. You probably don't even fucking like them anymore. You probably hate them. It's not communicating our expectations and boundaries in the beginning is a setup for disaster for both of you. And so I'm an advocate for being open and honest. Again, make sure you feel safe, especially with new people. The slow burn. Go slow.
For the love of God, yes.
Corey, you got something to say about that one?
I've ridden some fast trains into hell is all I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah. Catapult.
Catapulted right on. Yep. And I'm just...
Like, if after a month you're spending every waking moment with that
It's a
person,
problem.
I as your therapist or I as your friend or as your family member will be like, pull back. You don't know this person. You don't know if they're safe. You are leading based on all you're feeling. And are you communicating your needs?
No.
Probably not, because you're like, oh, this is so great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not going to be so great soon.
No, ma'am.
Steph has the cringe emoji face on right now.
Like, it could go either way. I've never tested that dating method myself, so no feedback from me. What
Blessings on blessings.
Need to be in the middle. Like, I don't want to see you for a month. That's my problem. What advice do you give people when processing the emotions they experience when a relationship comes to an end?
So this is actually one I try not to give advice on, because I think there are a lot of people out there that are like, oh, you just got a divorce. Oh, you just got out of a relationship, or you had a horrible breakup. You should do this. Everyone is different. There's no recipe for processing the end of a relationship. I think it is kind of having some time to just do what you're doing, whatever that looks like, whether that looks like going out a lot, whether that looks like staying in a lot, whether that looks like I hate this demographic of a person and I never want to talk to anyone in that demographic again for a little while. Okay. Let that lift, and in a very natural way. Now, if you're doing that 6 months down the road, let's talk, right? If you're engaging in behaviors that are unhealthy for you, okay. Allow yourself to process the emotions and however that feels best to you. Again, everyone's just so different. If you are doing things that are damaging to yourself, okay, please reach out to someone you trust and you love. I encourage everyone in the aftermath of a breakup, whatever the context that is, to tell someone and talk to someone and let people be there for you. There are people who love you. You aren't alone. I think especially, again, for women, it is, oh my God, I'm this old. I thought I was going to be in this place in life. I should be doing this. I'm never going to meet someone again. And that, I think, just takes us down into a place where we feel like no one understands us. And that's a dangerous place to be, because that's just a lie. It's just a lie your brain tells you. And it's not going to be that way forever. Allow yourself the opportunity to blossom out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Allow yourself a grace period, but don't stay in the grace period.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, at some point, there's time to like incorporate accountability in there.
Yes.
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 What is the main piece of advice you give to women struggling with the additional anxiety or new anxiety we are experiencing in regards to the current political environment involving women's rights?
Yeah, I think to get serious, I think it's been collectively traumatizing. For some of us, that might come up in severe anxiety. Some of us, that might come up in numbness and helplessness. It might come up in just feeling moody and feeling like just erratic, right? Because at least for some of us, I believe that there's this sense of like, I want to do more, I want to do more, I want to do more. And we should only be functioning within our capacity. This is something that isn't just going to go away. And I don't say that to discourage anyone listening. I say that because it's critically important that we take care of ourselves so that we can keep fighting. Our fundamental rights and having autonomy over our body and our choices is critical to our mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can all understand that. You know, I think of people who don't have the kind of access that some of us may have sitting in this room in the state that we live in. Thank you, Governor Polis. Thank you, like all the politicians in Colorado who support women's rights.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it might look like making meaning out of it from the perspective of being there for someone who doesn't have that kind of support. It's also important to continue doing what we do every day. Please go to brunch with your friends and have a good time and not talk about women's rights and just shoot the shit. Please relax. Please take care of yourself. Please allow yourself a break because we need that to keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that collectively as women, we can and will change this. So help me God.
Fuck you,
Yeah. Yeah, we absolutely will. We've
Mhm.
done it once. We'll do it again.
Mm-hmm.
This is not The Handmaid's Tale. We're not going to bend over and submit, but we will take care of ourselves so that we don't put ourselves in that position. And so if you're having anxiety, if you're fearful, if you are numb, if you're depressed, if you just feel like you're in a constant state of freaking the fuck out, I hear you. I think that's somewhat of a normal response to this unimaginable situation. Please connect with people who you can talk to about this and not talk to about this.
Yes. I always like to drive that home because I'm like, sometimes I feel like it further helps or further fuels the ruminating of it. You know what I mean? Where if you can get in a room with women where you connect with them and you can talk about other things that are lighter, then, you know what I mean? You're healing each other through that. And being able to give yourselves space to be able to get further through it, which I think is huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think a balance of both right now is good. And I think you touched on this, but to put it in another way, like to not put too much guilt on ourselves that we're not constantly trying to talk about it or addressing it, but we all, too much pressure, but just, yes, stay healthy in the other distractions so that we can continue because it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Well, and I think in some more extremist views and movements, it's like if you're not constantly talking about it or posting about it or what have you, like you're not doing enough, that's bullshit. It's just not, or it's not reality. We have jobs, we have families, we have other people we care about. We have to be able to live our lives. It's not like we've forgotten about it. And so I really get, obviously, you can probably hear it in the tone of my voice, pissed when people try and put that on you. That's not acceptable, and you don't have to receive that. Make differences in ways that you feel like you can show up. That might be different week to week, month to month, day to day, whatever that looks like for you. Even if you're doing something small, whether it's a $5 donation or a post or talking to someone close to you who's confused and needs support, you are making a difference. And so allow yourself, grace has come up again, to have grace for yourself in that, and that you don't have to be on a podium screaming at people about it to foster change.
Absolutely.
Very well said. Like most things you say.
Thanks.
What would you like to see for the future of women?
More of this.
Yes.
Yay.
Same. And
But for
that's what
real.
I was going to say. Like, people always talk about posts and, like you said, the protesting and doing all of these acts to get involved. But I think truly just working on the relationships with the women in your life it speaks volumes to helping, in these situations. Like, I know that for a long time it's been common for women to be in competition with each other. So even if you just change the narratives one person and one female to female interaction at a time, and it becomes a positive thing, and you can change those narratives, and we can truly start being there for each other. I feel like that's just as, important as posting or going on a protest. It doesn't matter how you put your hand into it, really.
Well, and I mean, this sounds kind of cliche, which I don't like, but I think that we have a lot more in common than we acknowledge. And if we can step out of our comfort zones and have those conversations on a personal level, I think that could make a huge impact. Even if you have vastly, and this is not applicable to all things, but vastly different political views, there are still things as women specifically we can connect on. And having those conversations, being supportive and encouraging and just listening, it's not about what you say, it's about how you show up for someone. And I think the more we do of that, the more we can move in a direction where we are creating whether it's women's rights, or just acceptance of how women show up in the world. If we can do that as a whole, we're moving in the right direction. And it starts on the micro level, right? We can't get to macro without starting at micro. And so that's what I would like to see is more of that team, more of, I don't relate to you on a lot of shit, but I relate to you on this, and I can respect you and honor you for that. I don't even have to be your best friend, but we can be cool in that. And I just think that kind of spirit and that energy creates much more growth than, no, I can't talk to you. And yes, there are people in your life who are going to be like that, and that's okay. But for the most part, having an open mind and open heart in how you connect with new friends, old friends, women in your life.
And just like continuing to learn from each other. Because then it all spreads out.
Yes.
It's all like passed along and along and along and along and continues to grow from the inside out. Like it just keeps vibrating outward and outward and outward and outward.
It's radiating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure is.
Any final thoughts? Any other topics either of you want to talk about, or close the doors on anything we did discuss, or further thoughts?
I don't know. I don't think I have anything else.
I don't either.
I feel like we did a really good job.
Yeah, we did.
Well, girls. Let's just go ahead and pat ourselves on the back.
Everyone at once. 1, 2, 3.
Yay, us.
Again, we want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening.
Yes.
We want to thank Marissa for coming and spreading her knowledge base and connecting with all of us and furthering the tribe and women growth and a safe space for women and acknowledging the things we do deal with and how we can help ourselves do that.
Thank you guys for creating a platform that will reach people on these different issues. I'm so proud and honored to be a part of it with you guys. Y'all are amazing.
Thank you. I'm sure you'll be back.
Yeah.
Right.
Duh.
More snacks to have.
It's worth driving down from the mountains, maybe.
Heck yes. I'll drive down the mountain anytime for you bitches.
Hell yeah.
Maybe we can do a mountain episode.
Oh. Oh, and there's a moose. We gotta pause.
Well, you do have microphones. We know that.
Yes, I have microphones. I have ring lights.
All of the above. Because of the great telehealth communication and counseling.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks, bunnies.
Yes, thank you guys for coming.
Stay tuned. Listen.
Sorry, I was sleepy.
Listen, follow, subscribe, tell your friends, write reviews as we continue to post more, and you might have more of an opinion of how much you do want to leave us 5 stars. Those things do help us, believe it or not, as we try to grow our platform and grow the safe space for women, because we want more women to be able to hear about us, know about us, and meet you guys. So with that being said, tune back soon.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Bye.
That's a wrap.